Welcome back to Third Culture Kid. My name is Valerie Favret, and today we are talking about Sciences Po's undergraduate college, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I went to Sciences Po Reims for my undergraduate degree, and I graduated in 2021. And I also did my master's at Sciences Po, so I'm gonna make a video about the master's. But yeah, today I just want to talk about sort of what the application process looks like, if you're confused, because it is a little bit confusing, and then also just give like my 2 cents on the undergraduate college in general. Overall, I loved going to Sciences Po. I think it's a great school, and that's why I make these videos. And I think that if you're interested in politics or IR, like definitely go to Sciences Po. Basically, what the undergraduate college of Sciences Po offers is a 3-year or 4-year program. The 3 years, the regular program where you spend 2 years at Sciences Po, 1 year abroad, or the 4-year, which is a dual degree, and that's a special program where you spend 2 years at Sciences Po and 2 years at the partner university. So I did the 3-year program, and basically you get a Bachelor of Arts in whatever majors you choose. So your first year of Sciences Po is a foundational year where you study everything under the umbrella of social sciences. So you'll be taking like 19th century history, political institutions, economics, political philosophy, and some other classes, sociology, and then of course you'll have languages. So I took French, and the first year is really intense, honestly. Like academically, I think Sciences Po is very rigorous, very intense. You have a lot of readings, you have a lot of courses. I think you have about 9 courses a semester, and I think it's because it's like a 3-year program and you only have 2 years actually in France. I feel like they just pack so much into those 2 years. So, I mean, I did the IB diploma, and that's kind of considered a challenging pedagogy, I think, for high schoolers. And I was okay at Sciences Po, but it was definitely a lot. Like, I was booked with reading. I had so many readings to do, and it's definitely an academically challenging program. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Like, it's a lot. But if you're into the social sciences, I think like great, like let's get into it. So yeah, basically the first year is foundational, and then the second year you start to specialize and you pick majors. So just some of the options are you pick 2, econ, political science and comparative politics, political science and political theory, and then law, history, and sociology. So yeah, your second year you really start to specialize, and I really like that about the program, because you kind of get to figure out in the first year, okay, what do I like? Like in my first year I was like, I do not like sociology at all. Like, this is not my vibe. So that was kind of nice to have that sort of confirmation to kind of help me to specialize in my second and third years. And then your third year is a whole year abroad. So you pick, you go to a different university for your third year. There's over 480 options, which is really cool when you think about it, because most colleges only offer like a semester abroad, but here you get a whole year. And then also you're paying Sciences Po tuition, so you can go to a school like University of Toronto for Sciences Po tuition. So you're gonna get a score, and that's basically gonna decide whether or not you get into Sciences Po, and the score is out of 100. So 50% of that score, or 50 points of that score, is your interview. Now, before you get invited to the interview, you have the other 50, 20 of which is your academic marks. And so, for example, if you're studying the IB, if you're in the IB diploma, like I was, you're gonna submit your predicted grades, let's say in December. That's 20. So you'll get a maximum of 20 points for that. Then you're gonna have your academic performance, also out of 20. So that's basically like the past, I think, 2 or 3 years of your grades. So basically your high school grades. And then 10 points are your, what they call academic project and motivation. So those are your essays that you're gonna write for Sciences Po. So my advice on the application, the essays more specifically, because I mean, I will say something about the grades. I think a lot of people ask me, like, are grades that important? What if I have like really bad grades? I mean, I think first of all, most people applying to Sciences Po are like a lot harder on themselves than they should be. Like, most people have really pretty decent grades. If you actually are like failing classes, I think that getting into Sciences Po would be really hard. But you know, if you're trying your best at school and you don't have like 90s, or I don't know, you don't have like IB 7s in all your grades and all your classes, you shouldn't feel or be discouraged from applying to Sciences Po, because I mean, I can speak from my experience, like my grades were pretty average. Like I think I had a predicted 7 for global politics and maybe theater, and then I had like 5s and 6s for my other classes. So I would say when it comes to grades, you want to have good grades for the classes that are relevant to the social sciences. So like history, global politics, econ. When it comes to grades, like don't be so hard on yourself and just apply. Like even if you don't think your grades are amazing, mine weren't that great and I got in. So for the essays, the undergraduate college, they have you writing a lot of essays, and it can be really overwhelming. And I'll say like first, straight off the bat, if Sciences Po is not your first choice of university, I wouldn't apply, just because I don't think it's worth the time and the energy that you're gonna put into the essays. It depends on which essays you're writing. I would say just be really clear and be very specific. Like if they're asking you about your campus choice, I wouldn't make it fancy. I would literally say like, my first choice is the Reims campus because da 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 da, and mention like the courses you want to take, mention the clubs and associations you want to join. And then like second paragraph, my second choice is the, you know, Dijon campus because X, Y, and Z. For the other essays, you know, there are some essays that are more creative where they ask you about like a novel that's really impacted you, and that you can be very personal and creative with. Then there's like an essay that's kind of more about your academic style, you know, do you value hard work, or questions about like what your motivation to apply to Sciences Po is. For that, I recommend, and again, it's just my recommendation, but I really recommend being personal and being like authentic. Like don't be afraid of saying, you know, a bit about your background and your story. And I would definitely be personal because it just helps you stand out and it's interesting to read. So I would start maybe with that. And then for that kind of an essay, I would move on to talk about maybe half of it about what has led you up into this moment of applying to Sciences Po. So, you know, what courses have you taken in high school that really sparked your interest in political science, or what clubs, like maybe a lot of people were in Model UN, you know, what volunteer work have you done? Don't try to just list off what's on your CV, because it just comes off as kind of cold. And I think they're just looking for people who genuinely are interested in like political affairs and international relations. So I wouldn't just like list what's on your CV, but I would actually try to like just be authentic and tell us why you're actually interested in Sciences Po. Like don't be shy, you know? And then for the other half of the essay, I would structure it like what you plan on doing at Sciences Po. So like what clubs, what associations, what courses you want to take, maybe what majors you want to pick, or what school you want to go to for your third year. And again, be as specific as possible. You know, you can mention, you know, politicians, you can throw in quotes, you can do whatever you want, but just tell us like why Sciences Po, why this program. And then also talk about your postgraduate plans. And obviously, like most of you guys that are applying are like 18 years old, so I totally understand that you don't necessarily know exactly what you want to do post-grad, but I think it's good to just give them an example so that they can see that you've put in the effort and the time to look into post-grad opportunities. So you can mention, I'd like to pursue a master's at Sciences Po afterwards, or I would like to join the military, or whatever it is, like just, I would mention it there, and I would be as specific as possible, again, to really help you stand out and also show them how thoughtful you've been about this whole process of applying. Then finally, if you pass that stage, you'll be invited to an interview, and all the information is online. But I just wanted to give some advice. So the 2-minute elevator pitch that you start your interview with, I think is really important, because it's their first impression of you. and an opportunity to really show how excited you are about the program, and also show them, you know, how confident you are. And also I think the interview really is testing your oral skills, your speech, like your public speaking skills, right? So it's not so much about how much do you know, although it is a little bit about that, but I think it's more about how do you present yourself, especially under pressure, because after the 2-minute elevator pitch, you have a 10 to 15-minute photo analysis. So they're gonna give you 2 photos, you get to pick one, and then you have, I think you have like 5 minutes to prepare a speech about it, and then sort of a 5-minute, 5 to 10 minute sort of question and answer, where they kind of, for lack of a better word, they kind of grill you for like 5 minutes and say, well, why did you say this? And so I remember doing this, and I mean, it is nerve-wracking. You just pick a picture and then you kind of come up with a speech, and obviously you want it to be, you know, relating to the social sciences or maybe modern political issues. I think what they're really looking for here, again, is just your public speaking skills, and also a little bit your knowledge of history or political. So I think really to prepare for the interview, you definitely want to prepare the 2-minute elevator pitch in advance, and, you know, be really comfortable at saying it. You definitely want to kind of read up on the news, because I remember in my interview, they asked me about like the current politics in Canada. And so I think it was about the some kind of like indigenous tribe. And so I was like, okay, here we go. So you definitely want to like read the news in whatever country you're coming from, and also maybe in Europe, because they might ask you about, you know, if something big happened in the world, like nothing, hopefully they don't ask you anything super specific, but it's good to just be informed of what's going on in the world. And then if you want, you can kind of prepare for the photo analysis, but I personally didn't, and I just kind of went into the interview like, let's go, like I'm here. Okay, my overall like advice for the interview is try to speak slowly, like especially for the intro, try to really practice that and speak very slowly, and just like try to come off as confident. Like, I don't know, I feel like for me it helped that I was just like, I was dressed in my best clothing that I had, like nothing crazy fancy, but I was just like, all right, I have a turtleneck on, I'm feeling cute, I'm here, like I made it this far. Like honestly, if you make it to the interview, you should be confident, you should be like proud of yourself for getting that far. And then just try to be like as authentic as possible. So not only the essays, but the interview as well. Like just be yourself. Like there's a reason that you made it all the way to the interview. You don't have to like try to answer questions in a way that you think they would want to hear. Like just be real, just be authentic. The last part I just wanted to talk about, basically sort of my advice in general to like applying. So I think that like, again, if Sciences Po is not your first choice, I genuinely don't think you should apply, because it's just too much work. I also think that, like I mentioned earlier, your grades are definitely important. It's a selective, the application or admission rate is 13%, so it's a selective school. But I don't think that if you don't have like straight A's, you shouldn't apply. Like I think you should still apply if you really want to go and you're really excited about it. You should apply regardless of your grades. I think that you should really only apply if you want to go into politics or whatever it is, like a government civil service career, if you actually want to like help people and make the world a better place, because I feel like that's what we really need nowadays. And yeah, if you're just going into it just to like be cool and be powerful, then I just don't think that's a good idea personally. I just feel like we should really think about like, is this for me? So yeah, go into politics, go into Sciences Po with a vision. Like have a vision, like what bothers you about our world? What do you feel like our world is really lacking, or what do you think is going wrong in our world? And how do you want to fix that? You know, how do you want to be a voice for the voiceless? How do you want to make the world a better place? And yeah, if you can have that vision, then I think that will really help you with your application, and just in life in general. Like if you have a vision, I think that's great. And then also just like for my ladies, for my women, if you're applying, I think that you should really apply. And I think, you know, be confident as well. And I learned this like sort of this saying this summer actually that I thought was very interesting that goes along the lines of like, and I don't know who said this, but it goes along the lines of like, back in the day, women didn't have a seat at the table. Then they had a seat at the and I'm referring to like the world of politics and like IR. So they didn't have a seat at the table at all. Then they had a seat at the table, but they had to act like men to sit at the table. And the goal for like our day and age for politics, I think for women especially, is to have a seat at the table, but also be a woman. Like, bring your femininity, bring your female perspective to the table, and don't feel pressured to talk like or look like men, especially, you know, in class debates and just in general in your political career. So I don't know, I just thought that was really good advice. I was like, wow, okay, like I can come to the table as a woman. I don't have to try to like be a man. And then finally, just, this is completely my opinion, but I just thought it was kind of fun to go into the pros and cons. So again, I am very pro Sciences Po. I mean, I spent 5 years there and I had a great time. And I think that the undergraduate college is like worth every penny. The value's amazing. It's a very prestigious school, and overall, like, I had a great experience. I made good friends. Pros definitely outweigh the cons. So I'll start with my cons. The only thing about Sciences Po that kind of irked me, if I'm being 100% honest, is it was like a little bit too academically competitive for my taste. And I think that, you know, it depends on what kind of student you are, and like, no shade towards people who are very academically competitive, but I did feel a bit at times like classroom debates were a little too cutthroat. And also just like, people kind of wanted to get good grades over like being like respectful to each other, or like tolerant and listening. So sometimes I felt like that the atmosphere was a bit too competitive. And then the other thing is, I also feel like when it comes to intellectual diversity, I do think that like the majority of people that go to Sciences Po are left-wing. And I felt like, I don't even know that I'm super conservative, but I do feel like conservative or more right-wing opinions were kind of looked down upon, and there's definitely an atmosphere of being sort of leaning left, definitely. So it's definitely just like a more of a left-wing school, and I just found that a bit disappointing in general, just that right-wing opinions weren't as tolerated as the left-wing opinions were. So those are my two cons. But then the pros, I love that it's such a small school. I really wanted like a small community. I think each cohort every year is about 300, depending on the campus you go to. I went to the Reims campus, so for me, I think my cohort was like 300 people, which is really nice because you get to know pretty much everyone in your cohort by the end of the 2 years, and it's just like a really nice size. I don't know, I really like that about it. I love the price. I love that it's affordable comparing to most North American universities and colleges. I love, and this is what I love about Sciences Po and why I went for my master's as well, I love how international it is. Like, again, depends on the campus you choose, but like the Reims campus, I mean, you have students from Africa because of the EURAF program, and then you have people from all over Europe, a lot of Italians, a lot of Germans, French, Belgians. You have a lot of Americans and Canadians on the Reims campus, but obviously if you choose like the Menton campus, you'll have people from the Middle East. So it's just really cool to have such a diverse like cohort and campus. And it's also like a truly bilingual experience because at least on the Reims campus, like you have a lot of French students. And then the final two is, I think it's definitely very academically rigorous. So if you like to be challenged, if you like to study and you like to read, or you like to do like Model UN and all those things, like it's the perfect place for that. I really like how, yeah, that atmosphere of like taking school seriously. And then finally, it's very prestigious. And also, I think in terms of employability, like you can ask people who work in the field. I've worked for the EU and I've worked for, well, I know people who work for the US government, and in both of those institutions, Sciences Po is very well known and highly regarded. It's sort of on the level of like Georgetown and LSE, and sort of those top ranking schools. So in the North America and Europe at least, it's very well known in the field of political science and IR. And so I would say in terms of employability, it's like a huge plus to have Sciences Po on your resume. And yeah, basically that's it. That's my, that's sort of my advice. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I am always available. I love helping people with their essays. Yeah, I hope you have a great 2026 and thank you for watching my video and I hope you have an awesome day.